Hey everyone, let's jump right into this explainer and unpack the massive high-stakes battle of opposing forces currently gripping the crypto market on August 3, 2026. If you've been watching the charts today, you know we are right in the middle of a massive tug of war. To capture this energy, we've gone with a dynamic anime visual style for the slides today because honestly, it's the perfect way to look at this standoff. We've got heavy macroeconomic headwinds crashing head-on into easing global conflicts, while a ticking legislative clock in Washington is adding a whole other layer of pressure. The immediate result of this massive clash, well, it's pretty obvious. Despite some truly earth-shattering global developments that we're going to explore in a minute, Bitcoin has really struggled to keep up its upward momentum. Actually, scratch that. It hasn't just struggled. It's completely slipped back into this tight, stagnant price range. It's hovering right under the 63,000 mark, sitting heavy at around $62,500. The latest on-chain report from Glassnode Insights perfectly captures the tension in the air right now. They hit the nail on the head, describing the market as being in a wait-and-see transitional phase. It's basically a total stalemate where these massive bullish and bearish forces are just locked in combat. All right, Arc 1, the macro battleground. This is where global geopolitics go head-to-head with a rapidly shifting macroeconomic reality. As you can see in this vibrant comic-style comparison, here's our first big fight. On the bullish side, President Donald Trump has pivoted from threats of military strikes to pushing for fresh peace talks between the US and Iran. That's huge. But fighting against that initial relief rally is an absolute beast of a bearish force, the unwinding of the global yen carry trade. That unwind is effectively sucking global liquidity and buying pressure right out of the room, and it's weighing incredibly heavily on risk assets across the board. Just to put into perspective the magnitude of the bullish news that the yen carry trade is suppressing right now, the peace talks actively include discussions on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. For those who don't know, this is a critical global shipping choke point. Analysts are literally hailing its potential reopening as the single most bullish macro event for Bitcoin since June. So while the geopolitical de-escalation initially sparked a rally, those heavy headwinds from the global yen carry trade are just relentlessly pulling risk assets back down to earth. Moving on to Arc 2. The regulatory ticking clock. Because, as if the macro battle wasn't enough, we now shift our focus to Washington, D.C., where a literal countdown is defining the market's anxiety. So institutional investors are just standing on the sidelines right now. They are desperately waiting for some kind of regulatory certainty before they make a move. And all their hopes are pinned on this: the Clarity Act. This is a landmark piece of crypto legislation that could completely define the industry's future. But right now, it is hanging by a thread in the U.S. Senate, and time is rapidly running out. The really crucial point here is this 72-hour countdown before the Senate's summer recess kicks off on August 10th. Look at this timeline. As of Monday, no cloture petition, which is the formal procedure needed to actually force a vote, had been filed. To get this thing moving, a petition has to be filed by Wednesday, which would set up a highly critical Friday vote. Without it, the whole bill stalls out completely until after the break. And as of right now, there isn't even a vote scheduled on the docket. We are watching political gridlock unfold in real time, and as an explainer, we can see exactly how it directly impacts market liquidity. Institutions are simply refusing to deploy their capital until they actually know the rules of the game. They're totally frozen. But what happens if the clock runs out and this landmark bill fails before recess? Well, analysts are warning of a pretty serious looming threat. Without that legislative clarity, there is a very real fear that the SEC and the CFTC could weaponize the regulatory vacuum. We could see them accelerate a huge wave of aggressive enforcement actions under what's being called Project Crypto, which would cast an even deeper shadow over the markets. Let's dive into Arc 3, Fear versus Foundation. Resuming into the blockchain itself now, where retail panic is clashing directly against the unshakable resolve of the market's true titans. Take a look at the smooth vector animation on this crypto fear and greed index chart. Sentiment has absolutely plummeted. I mean, just last week, we were sitting at a comfortable greed level of 58. Today, we've crashed all the way down to 34, planting us firmly in fear territory as short-term traders actively head for the exits. But here is where the narrative twists. And honestly, it's why this standoff is so fascinating to watch. While the short-term traders panic and sell off, the long-term holder conviction remains incredibly intact. This diamond-handed behavior, combined with some renewed ETF demand, is creating a massive structural floor. It's this exact foundation that is actively preventing a deeper market crash below the critical $62,200 support level. And beneath that fearful surface, the network's engine is absolutely roaring. Glassnode's on-chain data reveals that actual network activity and economic throughput are hitting massive statistical highs. Daily active addresses and transfer volumes are surging right now. The network is fundamentally strong, even if the surface price action looks completely stagnant. Up next, Arc 4, awakened whales and altcoin casualties. With the network buzzing so loudly, massive entities are making strategic maneuvers on the board, while the smaller tokens take some really heavy hits. Case in point right here, a dormant Bitcoin whale, someone completely inactive for 4 long years, suddenly woke up today. And they didn't just test the waters, no. They moved 730 Bitcoin, which is worth over $46 million in a single massive transaction to a brand new wallet. Now, normally, a massive transfer like this injects pure fear, uncertainty, and doubt straight into the market. But if you look closely at the on-chain footprints, this wasn't sent to an exchange to be dumped. Analysts are actually linking this to recently exposed security flaws in cold card hardware wallets. So our whale finally woke up after 4 years just to basically do an emergency IT support ticket, shuffling their assets to a secure custody setup, without actually adding any real selling pressure. Meanwhile, the altcoin market is seeing some pretty brutal casualties. After a red-hot July, tokens like Pi Network and Uniswap are leading today's losses, dropping around 4 to 5%. What we're seeing is a classic capital rotation. The hot coins are being sold off for profit, while the smart institutional money rotates into established giants. This is highlighted perfectly by Bitmine. They used today's dip to aggressively hoard nearly 10,400 Ethereum for their treasury. And that brings us to the final showdown. Let's pull all of these battling elements together and figure out exactly what comes next, as geopolitics, macroeconomics, and awakened whales all vie for control. So, while the geopolitical de-escalation in the Middle East is a fundamentally bullish thing, our immediate destiny hinges squarely on this checklist, and specifically the upcoming IHP inflation data release. If inflation runs hot or cold, it will instantly dictate the Federal Reserve's next policy shift, which in turn tells institutional liquidity exactly which way to jump. Ultimately, that data is what will break the market's current deadlock. As these immense opposing forces continue to collide over the coming days, I want to leave you with this final thought. Keep your eyes glued to that $63,500 level. Will Bitcoin decisively reclaim it and ignite the next phase of the market? Or will the bears finally break through that resilient structural floor? Whoever wins that battle will dictate everything that happens next. So, what's your bet?